Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Judy Cool. I'm the Executive Director for the Newport Chamber of Commerce. And I'm very excited that the Chamber is hosting the City Council for Newport forum today. And today I have with me Cynthia Jacobi, Dietmar Goebel, Ryan Perry, and Beatriz Botello. The forum is going to consist of 5 questions, and they will each have 3 minutes to answer the questions. I will call upon the candidates individually to answer the questions. So is everybody ready to get started?
Yep.
Ready.
All right. So let's go with the first question. Please provide a self-introduction, including why you are running for City Council, what experience you have that will make you a qualified council person, and what makes you the best candidate. And Cynthia, we're going to start with you.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm Cynthia Jacobi. 2 years ago, I applied to fill a vacant seat because I wanted to be part of the solution. I'm now running for a full 4-year term because I found the council to be interesting and a truly rewarding experience. I like our nonpartisan approach. It creates respect among the councilors, and we work for the common good. I like and I want to continue. Should we find excess money in our budget, I would reinstate the school resource officer. I believe the city budget is spare and bare bones, but I do see 2 areas where we could have further reductions, and that would be in the subsidies to 2 of our outstanding public assets. The first is the rec center, now under new directorship, which can build revenues and programs. Our airport, the only one on the coast above the tsunami zone, has now resolved the water pressure issues needed for fire safety, and they can go forward with developing commercial entities. As far as Vision 2040, I consider it a broad guide and an opportunity for more visionary actions as they develop. 3 business concerns where the city has a role. Number 1, jobs. We want to keep you in business, providing infrastructure, adequate water, roads, safety. And that's Tier 1, A1. The city can maintain reasonable fees and licenses favorable to business, yet safeguarding the public. Third area are employees. We can help you find and retain employees so often depending on affordable housing, and that is A1, Tier 1, Tier 1, A2. And my special advocacy is for affordable, accessible childcare. Tier 2, E9. Key issues, which we'll be dealing with in 2 years, we will continue dealing with housing and childcare. Secondly, disaster preparedness. We have had a brutal wake-up call. We will have longer, drier, hotter summers, and we must be part of the greater regional conversation on how to move forward, rethinking areas, and certainly considering forest management. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Ryan, let's hear from you.
So just to clarify, we're answering all 5 questions in the 3 minutes? It's not one.
I'm sorry?
Are we answering all 5 questions in the 3 minutes, or do we have 3 minutes per question?
3 minutes per question.
Per question.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ryan Perry, and I'm running for City Council because I think Newport is the best town on the Oregon coast, and I want to work to make it better. I've got a lot of broad experience in my career that stems from marketing and promoting a local business to teaching some of our most vulnerable youth, and then geez, I mean, I worked in the tech startup world and in product development for internationally recognized companies. And, you know, all of those jobs took unique skills, but they all had two things in common. The need to understand and solve really complex problems and the ability to listen. And when I say listening, you know, I'm talking about everyone. You have to listen to constituents and colleagues and customers and CEOs and venture capitalists and government agencies and concerned friends and families and parents. And I also really think that it's important that, you know, we can't expect the citizens of Newport to be engaged in their local politics if incumbent city council members are reelected automatically without any sort of challenge. But I'm not really comfortable with saying why I'm the best candidate, because that's just not who I am. What I will say is that if elected, I can pledge my determination, my preparedness, my hard work, and my willingness and openness to listen. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you, Ryan. And Beatriz, let's go to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here, Judy. Thank you for inviting us. I have been in this community for 25 years. And what I'm going to say, my husband and I, we came to this community to look for a job. And we stayed because our employer, you know, he was very supportive. And I can say he embraced that we were immigrants and looking for a job and sustain a family. I think that's one of the areas that I can say this community is amazing of, you know, understanding the needs of you know, new people coming, new immigrants coming. And I also can say right now I'm a city council. I'm in the city council right now, and I want to be relaxed because I feel it's very important to continue listening the community. I listen very closely. I research for information. I have a very strong networking and positive relationship with the community, and I understand the dynamics of intercultural, you know, how integrate the culture in the community. I also have been in this community doing outreach and engagement for 20 years, and I can say I listen very closely what our community is affected. And I can say, as Jacobi said, you know, one of the areas is housing, and I can see the part of the mental situation also, the mental and social situation. Those are all those things that are interconnected. So I really, when I'm there listening, I listen very closely what the comments that are coming to us, and I also search, and I like to work collectively. That's one of the areas that I focus, you know, working all together to solve a problem.
All right, thank you, Beatriz. Dietmar.
Hi, Judy. Thank you for this forum and for the Chamber's willingness to have us talk to you. Muchly appreciated. My name is Dietmar Goebel. I'm a local architect and business person here in town, and I'm running for a re-election. I was elected 4 years ago for my first term, and this would be my second term if re-elected. Time on the City Council has given me a unique insight into the city's function and finances, knowledge which will be invaluable as we continue to navigate into the future. The Vision 2040 and strategic plan will be invaluable moving forward. Visions such as creating new business and jobs, preserving and enjoying our environments, learning, exploring, and creating new horizons, improving community health and safety, and enhancing a livable region. My motivation for seeking re-election to the Newport City Council can best be expressed with a quote from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. If you want to be a true professional, you will do something outside of yourself, something to repair tears in your community, something to make life a little better for people less fortunate than you. That is what I think meaningful life is, living not for yourself, but for one's community. The experience of living in Newport community for the past 37 years has given me firsthand skills and understanding of our town and community. With service on the Lincoln County Planning Commission, the Newport Planning Commission, the Newport City Council, and the Newport Fire Department, and numerous committees and agencies, including the Public Arts Committee, Audit Committee, Budget Committee, Retirement Trustee Board, Parks Master Plan Committee, Liaison to the Port of Newport, and the Commercial Fishermen's Users Group. And I also chair the Urban Renewal Agency, together with being on the Airport Committee. This, together with other committee commitments such as the Newport Chamber, the Newport Rotary Club, and also being treasurer of the Yukon Bay Economic Foundation, has given me a time-tested understanding of our community and government. I ask for your vote and to be reelected to the Newport City Council. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dietmar. So let's move on to question number 2. So we are all painfully aware of the city's recent budget cuts as a result of the pandemic. If you have the chance and the city winds up with excess revenue than what was budgeted, how do you propose those particular funds be allocated? And Beatriz, let's start with you this time.
That's a good question. One of the things that I noticed this time with the epidemic, I'm going to start with that. And I also want to share, I grew up with my family, with my parent. He owns a own business, and I know how hard it is to keep going, to keep that cash flow and keep in the retention and finding employees, and I totally understand, because I grew up with since I grew up, I remember the sometimes the situations that my dad went through. And one of the things that I noticed with the epidemic, that it put us, the budget, it got in that critical area where everybody has a deficit right now. It's very challenging because the epidemic put us in different sets. So a lot of people that are having all this situation with the budget. But I'm thinking one of the areas that I think we can work better in the city with the budget, in case we have a reserve, is to reserve a planned budget in case of disaster or crisis or business. I really like the part with the city, they having the business plan design and having that money available right away. I feel that's very important to have the money in reserve and making a plan, so that way, we can move forward. Also, I feel affordable housing is very important, because you want to keep your employees, you want to retain employees. So that's another part, the housing, affordable housing is another part that we need to work. But I feel having a reserve plan in case of disaster or crisis is very important to have it, and have those grants available for business is crucial. It's crucial because we want to retain business. We want to continue having the diversity of those business. A community who has a diversity in business is very, very important in every community. So keep going with business. That plan, we all need to work together and collaborate together to have a recovery plan. And I think that's one of the parts that I feel that I can allocate, probably if we have a reserve, to do like a reserve allocation in business, housing, and we can move forward with that.
All right, thank you. Dietmar, let's move to you.
Thank you, Judy. This was a tough question, and I spent some time talking to Spencer about this and getting my head straight so that I had an understanding of what the possibilities might be. But I think it would be best to rely on the established financial work group that was established by resolution a little while ago. And that was, and this work group then would review and recommend long-term financial sustainability plans to guide policymakers in addressing the structural budget deficit and meeting facility and infrastructure needs for the general fund and for funds that the general fund funds. This work group, made up of city councilors, budget committee members, and public at large, will meet again at the end of October, not very far from now. Staff will update the financial projections based on any increases in revenue, if there are any, at this meeting, and review the reductions in expenditure approved by the budget committee and adopted by the city council on June 29th. The financial work group will then pull together a comprehensive plan on how to allocate any excesses or decreases in revenue. There are many needs, and a good comprehensive plan will help identify those most needed. Once the work group is done with their work, they will present to council for a public meeting, for public input, and for approval. I thought about this, and some of the areas that I think are the most needed, and some that I will fight for, is a school resource officer. I've been after that one ever since the budget committee took that money away from the resource officer. I think it's important to have some presence in the school. With the recent fires at the north end, Rob Murphy came to us and indicated that he had some equipment failures and that we needed to look at bringing some more equipment on board. Our parks and grounds are definitely a need, and I would see bringing some money into those to clean up simple things, just like even getting the weeds out of the sidewalks. And the last one is a pet project of mine, is art in public places. Funds for this were cut at the budget committee, and I fought hard to get a little bit of money into that fund, and I will continue to fight to get those funds reallocated. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dietmar. Brian, let's go to you.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Judy. And I just got to say, I'm learning so much already. So thank you to the other candidates. I really appreciate it. So the way this question is worded is if the city winds up with excess revenue, and I've got to say that I don't really think that excess revenue really exists in government. That's not really a thing. But of course, it's always good to be mindful of potential windfalls. Maybe some of that money should be saved. Like Beatriz suggested, we could have a fund for some sort of disaster relief. We could save it for future deficits. I also like the idea, as was suggested, to have some sort of grant program where businesses could receive money to, make improvements to outdoor areas that have proven to be really important during the pandemic. Simple things like Dietmar said, planting trees. Let's make our town even more beautiful. It's hard for me to speak in hypotheticals here, just because we don't know if this is going to happen. We don't know how much it will be. But no matter what happens, it's going to take a thoughtful, comprehensive discussion between city staff, city council, and of course the people of Newport. And then just quickly, I would, based on my reading of the most recent budget, I think, Judy, that the chamber is probably feeling the squeeze a little bit. So, maybe some of those funds could be restored, and we can, enable the chamber to, draw more people to Newport and really prop up our economy that way. So, just some brief comments. That's a tough but important question. So, thanks for asking. Thank you.
All right. Cynthia?
Hi. Well, I've given all of my concise answers, and I'm happy to expound upon them. Yes, we have received more letters about the school resource officer position than almost any other issue that's come before the city council. And I can see that it is extremely important to the citizens, the kids who go to school. So that would still be at the top of my list to reinstate that position. I think it's so important that children grow up with a friendly feeling for the police rather than a frightened one, and the school resource officer can certainly work in that regard. You know, this last year after the COVID crisis started, our city, through the community director, Derek Tokas's department, found money within the Urban Renewal Agency to make grants to businesses throughout our city. I believe about 120 businesses received financial help, which they could use for rent, utilities, replacing durable goods. And I think that must have helped the business community a great deal just to sort of stagger through the summer. Perhaps we can do that again with the help of the state and the federal government if need be, because this crisis is not over yet. Certainly our focus has been intensified with the fire issue. It's a new game. Where we'll go will take all of us working together. And I anticipate that the city and the city council can help. I also serve on the Public Arts Committee and do beautification projects along with Dietmar and many other people in town. I think presenting the best face possible for Newport is an advantage. So I will continue to work on that also. And thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Well, question number 3 kind of is opposite here. So do you feel there is any waste in the city budget? And if so, please cite specific areas where you would reduce funding. And Dietmar, we're going to start with you.
Well, thank you very much. This is a tough question. This is a tough one. Yeah, it took me a while to think about this one. So waste in our city budget is always a concern of the budget committee and of the council. And the citizens of Newport have to understand that we do our best to try to eliminate any waste we can. We take a great deal of time to discuss and review the budget every year and try to identify areas which may need adjusting. Many times, political considerations rather than real situations are used to fund or not fund. But mostly our city manager and his staff present a very organized budget based on revenue projections, and there's not a lot of room for waste. And as you know, we as a city have to present a balanced budget. We can't go into the deficit. This year especially, there is no waste, really. The budget has been cut by $2.2 million, with most of those cuts being absorbed by staffing. 22 FTEs or full-time equivalents, that's about, we probably laid off about 30 people over the part-time and full-time, have been cut from our staff, which may or may not be rehired if funds become available. And again, I would rely heavily on the financial work group recommendation and on work with this group to identify any reductions or increases in the various funds. Budget considerations are usually not a one-person decision, but that of many minds and perspectives, both at the staff level and at the political level. And I will do everything I can to make sure that waste is eliminated from our budget. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dietmar. Brian, let's move to you.
Sure, thank you very much. Again, I just got to express my gratitude. I'm learning a lot in this meeting. Again, as Dietmar said, this is a really tough question, and it took me a while, and I don't honestly have a ton to say about it. You know, I don't work for the city. I've not sit on the city council, so I'm, you know, it's hard for me as an outsider to really see where potential waste could be. What I will say is that, you know, when money is tight, families and small businesses, they have to delay capital expenditures, and so do cities. You know, in general, if there are non-essential city jobs that are currently open, they should probably remain open for the time being. And that's a hard thing to say, but it's sort of the writing's on the wall there, as far as I can tell. That said, we cannot afford to cut corners with essential services, you know, fire, police, wastewater management. We absolutely cannot afford to make cuts there. And so, yeah, in closing, and I know that I'm being brief here, but this is a complex issue, and I just wish that I could speak more intelligently about it. Again, I'll just reiterate that if elected, I would, you know, work closely with the budget committee, with the finance department, and really I would talk to city staff at all levels to try to just see, you know, what's keeping them up at night, where you know those pinch points are, and listen and learn and work with the council to make the best, most intelligent decision that we can. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Cynthia?
Thanks, Judy. You know, I think it's really easy to kind of sit back and throw darts at the city as far as waste is concerned. But I truly think that after serving on the budget committee and learning a lot, that our city budget is really bare bones. City Manager Spencer Neville has spread the pain equally through all departments. I want to make sure that people listening know that the city employees have all been furloughed 20% of their time. They were asked to come up with budget reductions from each of their departments, from using less paper and less copying to just anything they could think of, and they came through and did that. Like I said in my earlier remarks, I think we can save money by reducing subsidies to two of our great city assets. The rec center, I'm confident that our new director, Mike Kavanaugh, is going to come up with programs which will produce revenue. And our airport, as we speak today, there is one new hangar being built, which will be rented out. There's other commercial ideas going in, and we will also be collecting rent from the county when the animal shelter is built. So these are things which will reduce the subsidies to these two entities. I consider that a savings in the intermediate term. It will not be overnight. Thank you.
Great. Beatriz?
Thank you for that question. That's a good one. I'm so glad I'm the last one. So what I want to say, I don't think there's waste right now with the city at this moment. You know, one of the things that I want to say, I have learned the process. I really see the process, you know, how the process bringing the community, members of the community to be part of the budget committee, and also bringing the budget, the accounting, you know, the department, and also bringing Spencer and bringing all the council to, so there's a lot of eyes in those budgets. Everybody's looking very closely. I can say one of the things that one of my strengths when I'm looking somebody like the emergency water that we had just recently, one of the things, you know, looking or buying new equipment, I do my job, my work. I search, I look, how much costs, something, because I think it's our job to look very closely, the money that's going to be spent to see clearly, how much is spent and what is the best approach, and what is, and one of the things I really feel the importance with the budget. We have people in the budget, the committee. They have a lot of experience. They work in budget all these years, so it's a wonderful opportunity for the public to come to those meetings and listen very closely. What is happening, because there's a lot of decisions that are happening right there, like Councilor Jacobi shared, this year, we have to do the decision on furlough and to do some cuts. And also, another thing is we are working for the future, a better, like a recovery plan would be implemented probably in those budgets in the future. And it's very important to have those plans set. And I can see, being part of the budget, I have learned so much about, how the budgets that are presented to the public too, and they can be easy presented to the public. I think that's one of the areas that I feel there isn't weight right now. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. I did watch the budget meetings this year, and I found them very interesting and informative. So it really helped me to learn that process. So let's move on to our next question, which is, how closely will you follow the Vision 2040 plans completed by the city? Do you consider once a vision plan is completed, it is set in stone? If not, why not? And we are going to start with Ryan this time.
Cool, thank you. This is a really important question to me. And I've really taken a pretty deep dive into this document. And I know that some of you on the call here were involved in its creation. And I think it's a really important document, really thorough and thoughtful. And so, great job. It sets a really clear framework and groundwork and goal to work for. And I sort of have two sides to this question. First, I would say that all of the tier 1 initiatives, affordable housing, access to healthcare, education, infrastructure, the environment, all of those were critical in 2017 when this document was written, and they're even more critical today. You'll excuse me if I talk about this a little bit, but specifically about infrastructure and the environment. I spend a lot of time looking at the Surfrider data. The Surfrider Foundation has the Blue Water Task Force, where they monitor ocean water all over the coast, but specifically I pay attention to Agate Beach, Nye Beach, Elizabeth Street, South Beach, and then under the bridge. And they're checking for fecal chloroforms. And, frankly, the amount of waste going into the ocean is sort of embarrassing to me. I live in Nye Beach, and every time I'm down at the turnaround and I see visiting families with their children or the dogs playing in Nye Creek, I just cringe. So I really think that we've got to do something. We need to move money. We need to apply for grants. We need to maybe take punitive action against bad actors, because something's got to change. And I recognize that, the topography of Newport makes this a unique challenge, but our beaches and our fisheries form the very backbone of our economy. So sorry, that was a side rant there, but so yeah, tier 1 initiatives, yes, those need to go forward. However, 2040 is still a long way away, and things will change. We could have another pandemic. We could see markets change. We could see industries go away and tax bases collapse. So I view the 2040 vision plan as a really good goal to work toward, but there has to be some flexibility, and we have to take baby steps and, be able to revisit things and do things intelligently and at the right time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Beatriz?
Thank you for this question. It's my passion. I just want to say I'm a visionary. So that's how I got engaged with the city council. That was my first step, getting to the committee. I started since the planning. I was there. They brought the community together, and it was so great listening very closely from the community. So the community had a lot of input in this, and this is a very, like Ryan said, it's a live document. And if we really follow through, and it's very important, to check this document often, especially right now, when we are making decisions in city council, to look that document, because it has very important areas that is coming from a community. Those are comments that are coming directly from the community. And I want to say that the document has I have seen other visions, and I have worked before in other visions. And this one, I can say, is very nice document. And we have been able to hire a part-time person who's going to work very closely in the 2 years. And she's wonderful. She has been putting these objective parts, and if you go, you can look at the document and see all the parts and how it breaks, and it has the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So those go through the years, how we can work together and move to the next phase. And it has the business, it has the business component. And the business, I can say that the part that cares a lot about the business is the infrastructure. I cannot say it right now. Affordable housing, having the beautification at Newport is very important too. And having public transportation, that's another part of the business. Having a public transportation that's workable to get to different business is very important. And also having diverse shopping, having opportunities for our diverse community. We are growing. We are very diverse. We are becoming very diverse group. So having very diverse business is very important to move forward in the future. And walkable districts, neighborhoods that are safe, so people can go, like at the front, the waterfront. The waterfront is in Night Beach. People can walk and go and see different business. And that's what a lot of people, they like. So hopefully in the future, we have more business that are walkable and easy to move around.
All right, thank you. Dietmar.
Hi, Judy, again. This is our vision plan, Vision 2040. And what I want to stress in that is, I keep this with me in my notebook and reference it constantly. And what I want to stress here is that it is a community vision. It's not a city council vision. It's not a planning commission vision. We spend a great deal of time as a community, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, putting this plan together. And I participated in several of those. And I think it's a very important document for our community as we move forward into the future. This will be a guide for me of how we move forward. This document will become a guide for future decisions, not only for the community, but I think on council too. But things definitely are not set in stone. And as a community needs pressures, and directions change, so should the plan reflect those updates and desires of the community. Of course, change to the plan should only be done after involvement of the community. Who would have thought, who would have forecast the 2020 COVID crisis and a 2040 plan? completely changed what this year was all about. Over the years, the community will change, people will change, and situations will change. The 2040 plan is a great document and should be used for decision moving forward, but it is a living document, as Beatriz said, subject to updates as the needs of the city grows and develops. We've also established, together with that plan, the council also established a 2040 committee, and that committee meets regularly to look at the plan, look at what's good about the plan, what's not good about the plan, and take those items back to the community for updates. So it is a living document, but it is a guide for me, and I will use it as a way to make decisions into the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Cynthia?
Yes, I echo those comments. I consider it to be a visionary guide. And I would like to add something which hasn't been mentioned yet. Every January, the City Council has a goal-setting session. And things which we envision for the city fit under any of these categories. But we do definitely use this as, and also when, say, a group comes up with a plan for something they would like to do, they can look to the Vision 2040, find the number and the section, and use that to apply for grants. Then the grant you're applying for, they know that your city has a plan, and it really helps to bring money for ideas and plans for the city. Expansions, beautification projects, art projects, jobs projects, building. This is where the guide becomes very valuable. I do participate in Vision 2040 as a listener, and I always find it exciting that people in our community are doing things. And just to dovetail on to Councilor Botello's enthusiasm, I would encourage anyone out there listening to just get on a committee, give it a chance, give it your most, and I think you will be as energized as we all are. So thank you.
Thank you. I just recently joined that committee, and so I'm getting up to speed on it, and it is very interesting and a great committee. So, all right, on to our next question. What do you believe are the top 3 most pressing concerns to the business community in Newport? And what do you see as the important issues facing Newport in the next 2 years? And Dietmar, let's start with you.
Thank you. You always give me the tough questions first, huh?
What was that?
I say you always give me the tough questions first. Thank you very much. I thought about this top 3. Boy, that's as a community, we have a lot of issues that we need to face. But when I first moved to Newport some 37 years ago, all of the businesses in town were homegrown, locally owned stores and businesses. Over the years, small businesses were diminished due to the big nationally owned stores moving into town. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, just a change in the business environment. Our small stores will face additional pressures as we change our buying habits towards purchasing on the internet. The COVID epidemic has driven us all into our homes, and purchasing locally has slowed. As we begin to open back up businesses back up again, we must be very proactive to re-attract our old customers based away from the internet. Before the COVID hit in Newport, businesses was booming, and we were on a great upswing. I would say one of here's my top 3. Okay. I'd like to see a return of the businesses to the pre-COVID era. The COVID problem is, as it extends into the 2021 year, which is predicted, how will government dictates impact our businesses. That's a big concern for me as government continues to dictate to business how to operate. The change in the purchasing practice on the internet is a great concern to me, and how can our businesses interface with that internet process? The internet's not going to go away, so can we as a business community tap into that? And one of the big things that I've been hearing more and more about is that the cost of doing business in Newport is very expensive. Fees and taxes are causing businesses hardships, and some are unable to open because our SDC charges are very high, our taxes are high, and our construction is high. So businesses have a hard time locating here. Survival of our local shops are a great concern, and I was very happy to be a part of the Newport's $1 million grant program, where hundreds of businesses, lost my place, where hundreds of local business benefit with up to as much as $10,000, and that was a great benefit. So in closing, I want to say, and this is going to be our last question, I take it. In closing, I want to close with a quote from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she's ever present in my mind and is my guiding, and this is her quote is my guiding principle. Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. And that is a good way to end this for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dietmar. And let's go to Cynthia. You're muted.
I think we should remember that last spring, before the COVID hit us, that businesses were feeling optimistic for the season ahead, and things were looking pretty good for Newport. Lots of building sites going on. The new apartments on the north side were about to open. So we have a pretty good chance of being there again within the foreseeable future. Not immediately, but in the intermediate time, so we keep that in mind. And thinking of the three main business concerns which our community might have, number one would be jobs, and that the city wants to keep jobs coming to town, keep jobs viable, and we can help you by keeping up our public infrastructure, clean, plentiful, adequate water, roads, and the safety with our law enforcement department. And secondly, I think maintaining reasonable fees and licensing requirements. I don't know that the city can do a lot about the raw construction costs, but we might be able to help construction by maybe waiving a few of the fees or offsetting them down the road a bit while construction gets going again. Yet we have to keep in mind that we need to safeguard the public. I think that keeping and finding employees here in Newport is pretty difficult. I hear of people who have found jobs here, but then find they cannot live here. So it's a constant problem in a beautiful destination community such as ours to have affordable housing, something we really need to keep working on. Many of you know I do have a special advocacy for affordable and accessible childcare. I think this is best tackled by forming alliances with larger groups. For instance, the United Way has a 3-county advocacy group which meets almost every week to talk about expanding childcare opportunities. If families can't find a good place for their children, they can hardly keep their minds on their work. And I understand school teachers are having a hard time teaching in person because of lack of childcare for their own children. It's a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Beatriz?
That's a good question. And I want to echo Dietmar and also Cynthia, good points. And the epidemic really put us in a different perspective here. And I feel, with the epidemic, bring us, the challenge to think about how can we, recover from that, and how can we continue to be sustainable business while we are kind of, in different sets. And that's what I said, having a recovery economic plan is very important, not only for the city, but also for the business. And for any business around, it's very important to have a recovery plan. And also, I want to say another part, I'm going to say more about this, about the recovery plan, but another thing that I feel that are a very big concern is a qualified applicants to retention, and that's impact of not having housing, affordable housing, childcare. So every business, when they hire a new person, they spend time and money. So sometimes, businesses are not able to retain staff because, we don't have the baseline like housing, affordable housing, or, childcare. That, and also, it's very important to have healthcare also, very important, education. Our community is interconnected. So everything is connected. So it's the importance of having everything very well. The well-being is very important for a job. And then, as Dietmar mentioned, the competition, small business with big business, that's another area too. And so I feel that the next question is, what do you see the important issues facing Newport in the next 2 years? I think the epidemic will continue. It's sad to say that, but hopefully, we have more, we are more prepared. We have a recovery plan where it has a comprehensive, I'm hoping, there's some funding to support with tools for the business to, also with the technology, the market, how you can sustain a business where, you can move it to use technology too. So, and continue on. We see the strain on a business, moving their business out, like a restaurant, having chairs outside. I can say something, some strategies are recovery. So I think there's so great. And there is a lot of resources. We have the qualityinfo.org. I like data. So if you have the opportunity to look in qualityinfo.org, it's a great place. Boldly, they offer the technical assistance to the employer and a small business through the Oregon Coast Community College.
All right, thank you, Beatriz. Ryan?
Yes, thank you all. Again, I think, I learned a lot here, and I think that we generally agree. This one hit pretty close to home for me because I've been on the ground floor of trying to scramble and recover from the effects of the pandemic at my own job. And, we were lucky to be able to move some of our business online and sort of reach a wider distribution network to keep income coming in. And then, yes, we've had to adjust sort of the way we operate under the phase one opening guidelines. And, we're not doing awesome, but we are, keeping our employees and, moving forward. So, yeah, number one is always going to be, I think, recovery from the effects of the coronavirus. That's number one in everyone's mind. Number two, and this also hits close to home, is, and it has to do with housing, but finding good staff and keeping good staff is difficult here in Newport, and it relates to, concerns by the business community of having their employees housed and healthy. So, that's not unique to Newport, but it's certainly an issue that I'm dealing with I mean, I was literally dealing with it an hour before this call. I mean, I had an employee that couldn't make it to work today because she can't live in Newport and her car is having trouble. So, you know, and then, you know, I think, you know, number 3 would just be sort of surviving the slow season after having a pretty slim summer, and then without having the you know, the budgeting effects of chamber events, like the cider festival is canceled, the wine festival is going to be fairly diminished this year, and so we're not going to get those sort of shoulder season bumps. And so, yeah, surviving the slow season, I think, is number 3 to me in you know, business owners' mind. So looking forward to the next 2 years, again, I just have to say it again, housing, housing, housing. When I moved here, it took me 3 months to find a decent place to live. And that was for a couple of 2 incomes with good jobs. 3 months. Number 2 for me, and this hasn't really been mentioned yet, but Hatfield and Oregon State University, you know, it's really awesome. I think that Oregon State is here. You know, they bring prestige, they bring brain power, they bring, you know, positive economic impact. But we've got to get them back to the table about building student housing. That really needs to happen. And then finally, number 3, I guess this is a complex one, but I think, you know, alleviating traffic and beautifying the 101 corridor is really important because, you know, when you drive down the 101 corridor through Newport and you're not planning to stay, you know, and you don't know about the Bayfront, and you don't know about Night Beach, and you don't know about fun things in South Beach, you know, the 101 corridor is just not really all that indicative or representative of Newport. There's one thing. And I just think that it would be really important for us to, you know, take efforts to work with ODOT to alleviate traffic and to, you know, make Newport a little bit more attractive right on the 101 there. Sorry for going over time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, that's it for our questions today. And I know all of you and the ones that have been on City Council, you have a lot of tough decisions to make. And so I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and I wish all of you the best of luck in your campaign for being on our City Council.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
See you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.